Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Feng Shui podcast. This is your host, FGC Chris, and I'm here today with my guest, Mr. Rodimus. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good today. I'm glad to have a chance to be back on the panel again, and happy holidays out there to the viewers and the followers to the channel.
And I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with him because he was on me and Mr. Joshua's podcast, the Questionable Perspective one, and we had definitely an interesting conversation over there. But I wanted to continue it over here. So I guess we can get into the first really thing we were going to talk about today. Like, are modern fighting games actually getting easier for newer players today? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So, for modern fighting games, the take that I have, well, not, I mean, it could be a take, I guess, but the reason why I believe that fighting games are getting easier mainly is because companies are trying to lower the introduction level to draw more sales to newer generation, which is doing so somewhat at the cost of cherishable execution at the older generation or time honored patrons and players who have been playing the IP for years before have valued, and it's a key returning point of interest for them in the franchise. Then this newer generation and the application of like those watered down tools alongside the tools left by the prior era of makers, be they creators or gamers or even designers, those aren't always consistent, even though the value is there for generational nourishment. The less budding, yet the lesser yet budding design of fighting games is not necessarily like locked to this current generation alone. It was vaguely happening during the prior generation of millennials and before like our transition to this timeline. I do believe, however, that COVID kind of sped this process of transition along. It's a part of like why my generation of gamers, or since I'm a millennial, why the generation of gamers would be so critical to companies and their creations, yet open-minded, whereas the latter of this generation this generation just condones said product as trash, with a smaller minority having actually delved into said thing they understand what they're angry about, or what you're angry about, or what may actually be hopeful for, what you're actually hopeful for. These elements help to make up for that lacking in better mechanics or in better design of the product, no matter the IP. The pocket problem is companies banking on the IP of the product for it to succeed and not the quality of it. Like the quality of it versus quantities. We're talking about lowering the skill floor, but potentially not affecting the skill ceiling. So like Net Impact is a case in point where like right here it's been struggling right out of the womb. The game was in trouble right when it first got here between its unpolished design or imbalance of damage scaling or crappy rollback design that's platform locked to a specific platform preference where there's the least amount of lag or turbulence in connecting to somebody else that's probably closer to you and not afar. And its IP is small, which means that it wasn't going to be saved worth a damn. So it's just going to struggle here naturally because the product was not taken care of, and it justly shows, unfortunately. Or Invincible Versus, it's still in the beta phase of its presentation. That was kind of the point of the company form that we signed to play, not an NDA. But it's a super clunky game than it should. There are given bugs you can clearly see at times that got to be cleaned up. The buttons have like latent input to registration combos. It looks like it could be a fairly easy game to get into, but I don't see the ceiling for it just yet in terms of what type of combo system they want to go for that could appeal to veterans, not some veteran gamers, or appeal to the whatever the marketed gamerverse is that is to go to. That company's last product was Killer Instinct, so I'm curious on how they try to either want to take combo structure from Killer Instinct and then you could appeal to new players and old players, or if it's going to be its own thing and kind of have a couple of NRS inspired mechanics and whatnot. Oh, and speaking of, that's also my last take. My last observation was Mortal Kombat, or every generation of Mortal Kombat. That's not even in this era where it seems like the majority of hate is. It's actually like a generational criticism that we all agree on. shocking as that is, like we all agree, not that the IP is like amazing like that, but more so that Mortal Kombat games were good at first and then very bad after a point, and then the franchise has been milking more than mending.
Yeah. Oh,
But
go ahead.
anyways, though I'm just last thing here, and then we can I got you. I didn't want to interrupt you,
Oh no, go ahead.
but no, the lowering of the ceiling isn't really good in this instance in terms of like you say they're getting easier, or
Mm.
in terms of getting easier, it's not necessarily a good thing because it also invalidates the time investment of players to even the playing field. But in reality, it ruins the competitive experience of the people who actually invested the time to get good. And it kind of led to that whole process of a gap here between casual and comp players struggling to for a time now trying to close that gap, or they just don't care to, and then you kind of have to backtrack later on when you meet new people. It's all about priorities and how you're adapting with those priorities. That's pretty much it for that question.
Mm. So how can they get to be like Street Fighter? Because Street Fighter seems to be the only one that's kind of like bridged that gap to a point where people you have new players coming in and still have stuff there for the older players.
What Street Fighter did is introduce that whole what was that's the game I one of the games I played the least, and I hate that it fucking shows right now.
The
Um,
World Tour mode.
a little bit of that. They have World Tour mode, and you have the difference in the mechanics. You have the modern day controls, then you have classic controls. Them doing that, I think, involuntarily set a tone of of hey, this is open to everybody, that you don't get from every experience, because you have something that's here for classics, which makes it more execution heavy, and then you have those that are here for modern day that are more uh, introductory level and more wanting to understand how to play the game. And so at the cost of playing the game at an easier rate of consistency or pace than the classical person, okay, the damage is probably reduced, versus the classical person, where as long as you know your inputs and whatnot, everything should come out how it should, and your execution is also complemented by the damage that comes with that. I think that's a fair trade-off for easier execution, kind of leading towards lesser damage to a degree, versus the set execution, set damage.
Yeah,
That way there is risk to the reward with one, and there is also risk to the reward and the trade-off with the other.
yeah. Because I was about to say because we have a player in our scene. He's a Lily player, Chato. I think he's pretty much won pretty much every tournament, and he's a modern player. And I think he would still be good with or without the modern control. I think he's just like the modern controls make it because he went from just classic to modern. And he's like it's way easier because I don't have to think as hard and I don't have the mental stack as much as I did when I was on classic because I have pretty much instant reactions almost.
Okay.
He has a one button super. If he wants to DP, he doesn't have to do the motion. He just is. I think it's like forward and a button, and he gets the DP. And he's just like it's more. It takes more mental pressure off of me because I don't have to remember these complex inputs and stuff. And I think it works if it works. And I've seen a couple of pro players use it, but you don't see them that often using it in like modern mode.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's only like a 25% damage reduction if you use the modern control scheme, which is to me, like you said, is a fair trade off. So I had no problem with it, but it seems to be like a big problem within the community itself because a lot of people feel like modern controls are basically cheating. So I don't know what your perspective would be on that whole thing.
Modern controls, because if I can't really say too much on that, but I understand that that's one of the community's own like self struggles in having like a unified understanding of game and structural mechanic fundamentality. And you want to have the game have the execution ceiling still be present while being more broadened about the floor that you're introducing people to.
Yeah.
So the problem with modern versus classic is that it's literally a challenge of the floor versus the ceiling is what that is. And it depends on like how comfortable you are with the game that you resonate with one form of play than the other. Even though probably you'll eventually try them both out just to see what the difference is anyways, depending upon how much you actually like Street Fighter or Street Fighter 6, one or the other.
Yeah, cause I must say I do classic because that's pretty much that's how I grew up playing fighting games. It's just classic mode. We didn't have like simple inputs and all that stuff, so I'm used to playing it like that. And every time I pick up the modern controls and I try them out, it just doesn't feel comfortable to me. But I can see how a newer player coming in would say it's comfortable to them, and they could be like, "I'm fine with using it." And but
Right.
I also understand it from the higher level perspective because we had another podcast episode with Joel. He's a high level player, and he looks at it more so like he doesn't really care about it, but he's like, do people really understand how hard like Street Fighter 4 in one frame links were? Like how long it took you to learn that kind of stuff, and now
I don't
people
think
can
they
do,
do.
and now people can basically just do one frame links with modern controls now. And it's just that disconnect between the older player and the newer player where the newer player doesn't really respect the casual, not the casual, but
The
the
initial investment it took before it got easier for you.
yeah. I think that's what kind of rubs a lot of them the wrong way. Like you kind of just like, well, y'all just can't keep up with the times. It's like, no, it ain't that they can't keep up with the times. It's just like y'all just don't seem to have any respect for like the old stuff, like how hard these games were before this happened.
Right. Because like fighting games are supposed to have a sense of execution to them. That's what makes them kind of different than other games. You could debate like shooting games and having like map sense in order to master the terrain with the least amount of application to your toolkits and your resources and whatnot in order to get to your opponent. But a gun game and awareness versus a fighting game and execution both have like limitations to the application in terms of the time and investment versus how much information you're absorbing and retaining. Fighting games, I think, will win in that regard because of the retaining of basic information that is more enriching to the person and not just the situation.
Mhm. That's something we definitely could string off into because I know that seems to be the thing people try to compare like fighting games to is like first person shooters, and I'm like they're similar with some of the skill sets, but they're different in some of the skill sets. Like in a first person shooter, like once you get the basic handling of a gun and once you start learning the maps, like the game becomes a lot easier. You don't really have to retain as much information about certain things. You just point, pull trigger. It says who's got the better reactions a lot of times. Where in a fighting game, like you really have to remember, okay, this moves plus here, this moves minus here. If I do this, I can combo into this. Oh, I got a counter hit. Oh, I got a punish counter, so I can do extra damage here. So I have to do a different combo route. It's like there's so much stuff you have to remember, and I don't think it's a fair comparison. A lot of time when people do the first person shooter and fighting games.
The only reason why I could see, and the only reason why I understand why the two are compared is because the key trait that they both share revolves around awareness and reaction. That's the key trait that they both share, which is why there are some fighting game players that go to first person shooter games, is because you keep that reaction intact. In shooter games, that's the key thing that separates how fast you get it up versus your opponent. Is reaction.
Yeah,
That's the key trait that both those genres have in common.
yeah. Like I said, I think there are some things that kind of just carry over, like basically like you're saying, like reaction time and stuff like that. But it just feels like there's just way much more stuff that you have to remember in a fighting game than more so in a shooter.
Yeah, because in a shooter, I mean, half the battle is literally just aim, and you're fine.
And that's kind of hard for some people.
It is hard to aim, which is why the counteraction of that is use your environment to also help with that process. Make it obscured. And this is where it comes with like not so much knowing your opponent, that does play into also. Yeah, knowing your enemy also plays into that too between fighting games and shooter games. That way you know how to approach, you know how to use the lay of the land to your advantage, and how much ammo you have in order to make that first shot count. Versus in a fighting game, all right, knowing your opponent, picking the right map or the stage or something, or knowing the matchup in which you're going up against and what you're playing as. How do you approach? How do you play neutral here? How do you use your opponent's resources or your resources to productively win the contest? Similar visual antics you could compare and debate here, but there are more for the fighting game sense, because the one thing that differs between it is like with shooter games, it's connections that will or won't work against you. With fighting games, it may or may not be the connection, but it's also frames that work against you and with you. And that takes more application in knowing and memorizing frames for the matchup rather than the frame rate of connections.
Yeah. I got about to say because most fighting games, I feel like most fighting game skill sets can transfer between games. If you have solid neutral, decent anti-air stuff like that, that stuff does transfer to when you go to another fighting game.
Absolutely.
Cause that I'm trying to think of right now. Because right now I think what is it? Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, Mortal Kombat, uh, Under Night, Grand Blue.
Like the fundamentally driven games.
I would say the probably the most fundamentally driven game is probably Fatal Fury, and that game seems to be dying right now.
Unfortunately, while it is a founding IP in the fighting game hierarchy, it is not a popular game in the fighting game hierarchy.
Which is kind of crazy to me because I'm like, well, isn't this game exactly what the FGC said they wanted? A game that's like actually mechanically heavy and basically really caters towards FGC people, but it seems to kind of not really be faring too well, especially like with his player count.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it. That is what you would like, and that is what people had requested. The key thing here that uh thousands more people don't understand is like just like that, because it's the problem from that generation is because people advocated for Fatal Fury for years, but the problem is that Fatal Fury wasn't seen in the main light for many years. So this is unfortunately the counter reaction to that is once that game finally got here, they got to do like a massive IP catch up in order to try and be its own like dip in the pool here of the FGC swimming.
Yeah, like I kind of understand because they like I thought it was the when they did the crossover with Street Fighter. I said that probably should help them, and then it did get a boost when Ken and Chun Li got released. But it slowly start. You can slowly start seeing the numbers drop back down to where they normally were after a while. And it just to me it just kind of sucks because I thought that game was gonna be like it was gonna be right up there with Street Fighter and Tekken and all the rest of them.
And like fundamentally speaking, it is, but it's just it's a hidden gem in the bigger aspect of how much larger people's not expectations, but how larger people's visual field of view is, or like all the details of fundamentally driven fighting games or games that are going to be just as enriching as a Tekken or a Street Fighter for you to play and always try to learn something from. And there's a lot to learn from a game like that or other games from that era that they could try to remaster just as they are, not even as a collection or as a as a quote unquote a reboot or a remaster or some shit. They can still do that same process. But the problem is, what are you trying to add or take away for the sales that takes away from the enrichment process? That's the trade-off that also affects the IP, because that means that it may or may not be staying true to what it was founded for, in order to try to appeal to new people, and then new people kind of get the not full idea, or they get a totally wrong idea about it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, we could use that as a transition to our next topic, actually, because that game has kind of been a pro player paradise. Like the pro players love that game, Fatal Fury, but
I don't blame them.
the casual people kind of just like played it for about a week or two, or played the betas and just like, nah, this ain't for me. And it's kind of like, well, how do we bridge that gap between like the competitive side and the casual side?
So with the gap there, like that's actually a really good observation. Because like I really wanted to get into that myself, because I have that and I have Demon Slayer in my cart now. I've been debating for like the past couple of days. Do I want to get these? Do I want to get these games? Because I enjoyed City of the Wolves, but I also know going there I might come out like a whole ass fighter. But that's a lot of bust ass that could happen in there from the earlier years. I'm for it, and I'm scared at the same time. And I'm really, really excited. And then Demon Slayer, I'm just like, damn, I could really go and apply these fundamentals, but that's a lot of fuss ass on that side of the fighting game community I didn't even know yet. So decisions. But
Yeah, because what is that? Himikami Chronicles.
that's the one, yeah. Chronicles number 2.
Yeah, because I've been seeing that game. It looks fun, but at the same time, I'm like, this game looks busted as hell in some instances.
There are some mechanics with the game that are nice and others that are questionable compared to what it is I've been told in my podcast journeys in the first game going into the second game. And while the second game has a bigger roster and it's more accommodating of new and older players, it's the mechanics and how eventually that when you're trying to compete on the game or wanting to like take the game seriously is where you have less fun playing the game, because mechanics low key will dictate how most team shells or characters in a matchup will fight or will be allowed to fight at times if you
Mm.
understand the mechanics enough. And because there are two games that are there existent for it, it's a miniature legacy game. So if you played the first game, you know how to play the second game, so you're already aware of mechanics, which will very bluntly decide the skill gap for you at a certain point.
Okay. Wait, I say jumping back on topic though.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So with fighting games having the hard time bridging the gaps, this comes into the identification of resources, and this also comes down to a gap of relatability. So this stems from like a common table of contents that are, in my opinion, that they're supposed to be in the game or in the experience of the game. It's why there's a relatability gap that is so low right now outside the entry point of, hey, we play the same game, we're in the same community, we might play the same characters. It's almost like a different game entirely on two different ecosystems in terms of like two different generations on the same game. It's almost two different ecosystems. There's a few games that have this same type of thing going on now. There's very few where both generations have a very similar grasp where it's a majority. But a couple of issues I would say would go down to like the ranking system for one. Many fighters have like ranking systems, or more specifically, skill-based matchmaking that can be perceived as unfair. Pairing players with others with significantly more wins than their own, and this can lead to frustration and discourages new players from trying the genre or grinding more to solidify real investment, or a skill gap, which is done right and done dirty by many a game. Like the skill gap between players that can be significant, especially in ranked matches, making it challenging for casual players to find matches to match their skill level. Like Discord fighters, new and old, suffer from that crap. Rushed or unfinished products deal with this. Most don't get it. That if the game was already polarizing to play or learn, or it didn't have practical counterplay or a tutorial guide to it or something as simply as that. Or that it's people who fancy themselves a coach who don't really know anything about nurturing when you can't naturally close that gap. You're only gambling around it. Or an execution barrier, for instance. Like, traditional fighting games have a steep learning curve due to complex motion inputs and or strategic depth, which can be daunting for newer players. Technically, it's like a different execution ceiling amidst the depth of one button era versus the depth of gameplay in the next one with 3 or 4 button era. The linking effort is more trip to said old game over hopping for a remastered brain, over hoping for a remastered in this specific part of this connection. This also kind of trails back around to that skill floor versus skill ceiling analysis from earlier in our discussion. The netcode issue is another one that can also lead to a hard time bridging gaps, or even might just separate it altogether, because bad netcode will make it unable to play or unable to connect with people. Technical issues with netcode can and will affect the matchmaking experience, making it difficult for players to find matches or compete effectively. Offline solved that portion all last era before COVID got here, and then the online community is succeeding some now, but it's not consistently in the same area because each product of a game is ran different or ran into the ground, trying to uphold the image over upholding the community's best sides and interests. Like, games with bad netcode will also lead to a blunt pivot because there will only be an offline versus online experience, or there will be a early gameplay experience versus a later gameplay experience. Some people may only have this game as an option that they can enjoy. Others don't have that as an option to enjoy as much, so they won't necessarily understand what's going on or what's happening in the modern day time of playing said game. Only what they remember from their time versus what they may or may not hear every once in a while in this timeline. Players' expectations is another one. Like, players often expect like a high level of skill and performance, which can be difficult for new players to meet, or older players extending the difficulty to sustain, or leading to a feeling of frustration and gaps of disengagement. Now, the flip side to player expectation, the flip side to this was newer players initially wanting different shit than the older people, and yet now, after most modern fighting games productions failing to do so, or failing to do the bare minimum or change the standard to live up still to the hype at the cost of real quality. They really like more of the older games that the old gamers had played that we had talked about. But these are like secretly like too high once we get excited about like seeing a new product in the works, or automatically comparing it to a past installment and its mechanics. Like examples like Mortal Kombat 1 has that type of shit going on, or Hunter x Hunter, or Uni 2, let's say like various Overwatch clones, or uh, Fatal Fury, unironically with its monetary gain and the return on marketing in order to try and get its feet wet in the water. What was it? Social Atmosphere was another one. Like, the two generations in this case are at an agree to disagree because it's two different ecosystems that live side by side. And so it's a product, like, the product may not always be the same anymore. Companies change some IP set formula, dumbing it down per se to appeal to casuals more and more, thus in the value of what the game was that drew interest to the older base, appealing to the newer base, thinking that they won't grasp the old concept better than the new one. It's like it's questioning the intelligence of modern day gamers trying to simply pick up where the past gen left off for the same value of the same gameplay we're all here for. Factors contribute to the challenges faced by fighting games and bridging the gap between players and can affect the overall experience and retention of the genre. Possible motion input you can also put into that discussion too, because it is having to do with the start and complementing layer with mechanics. However, it's not vital to everyone's engine. Everyone meaning like every game's engine. Every game engine doesn't really have to worry about easier or harder inputs. It's just, is the game fun to play at face value, and then we delve from here. That's the juggle that the companies have in trying to make a good game or a good fighting game sometimes without needing to dumb it down to start a polarizing process on one end or upscale or fine tune the combo and execution mechanics of simple button inputs to where it's polarizing on the other end of playing and getting your combos out, or you have to do combos, or you have a whole wide array of combos that you can actually open up towards. What was it? Another thing is also the process of. Last thing I'll say is also the process of information and how information travels. So like in my earlier years in playing the fighting game community, playing in the fighting game community, the process of information traveled at a different rate than it does now. Information is easier to obtain now, which for some instances is good, but the problem there is that in terms of trying to do shit that was harder to do in the earlier generation that's seemingly easier now, yeah, like you said earlier, it's losing the value in appreciating how hard it's supposed to be to do. Just because you're able to do it now or do it easier, there's more text and details and information about how to do these things effectively to where everybody can do it. So it's a household name X amount of years later. But X amount of years earlier, this was like the penultimate of what you could do with this character, with this game at this time. And that was hype shit. That's how a lot of players got respect or got the credibility of doing something really awesome that sets you apart from other people. Even if it may not look like much now, it was a lot in those years. And that connecting process is like a difficult momentum stopper in the gap building process that a lot of newer generation games should have been doing by
Mm. 'Cause from my point of view on that situation, I kind of don't like the fact that information has become so freely available now. Because now when you look at players play, even the lower level players play, it's like everybody is trying to play like the pro player. Like everybody's trying to use the optimal setup. Like everybody's playing exactly how they play. And it's like nobody has a style of their own or anything that kind of gives them their own identity with the character. It's just like it's kind of almost like the homogenization of characters because pretty much everybody plays the character the exact same way. And it seems like whenever time a pro player or anybody comes up against a player who doesn't play the way they think they should play, that's when they start to struggle or they lose, and then they all of a sudden, I hate this game. It's so stupid. It's so random. I'm like, no, it's not random. It's like he's playing. He's not playing the way you assume the character is supposed to be played. He's playing the character the way he wants to play the character, and kind of developing his own style with the character instead of just going with everybody else's. We're gonna just do this because this pro player said this is the best way to do it.
now. There's that part too. Because like that goes into the detail of character expression and like how well are the mechanics to where it allows you to be expressive with your character, where you can actually play this character or this play style of this character vastly different than somebody else. There's sometimes like a couple different characters you could play like maybe two or three different ways, and so there's going to be different players that are going to play the same character, but you play him three, four different ways. That's kind of godlike in its own way. That means that any way that you choose to play the character, you're not technically wrong. You can play him to the best of his capabilities that work for you.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of that when I was playing jury, and when I was going towards master rank, people were like, well, you're not playing her the way you should be playing. You're not playing her optimally. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just playing her the way I know. I'm just mixing in different people's styles into my own and just kind of making my own. That's why I'm kind of catching you off guard. Like, oh, you're not supposed to do an overhead right here. Well, I'm gonna do the overhead right here, and I'm catching you. I just want people to kind of just take the time to really just play the games and kind of just, I guess, kind of get back to like the Street Fighter 4 days and the older days where like you could tell, even though you had two people that played the same character, you could tell this Akuma from that Akuma. It wasn't like
Yep.
they're just all doing the same thing. But now it's just like everybody's playing the same. They're doing the same thing. They're doing the same combo routes. It's like it's kind of to me it kind of gets boring.
And that I can understand, because like that's why again, that's why I like about the character expressions, because you got one that's probably trying to sit here and whiff punish you half the time. There's another one that's trying to there's another Akuma that's trying to probably whiff punish you the whole time. Other one that's literally like right in your face as soon as you wake up. You got to think fast, think fast, think fast. Whoop, you died. Got to hold this whole shit back into the mix, and I get to meet you now. Or another dude that but tries to meme on you the whole time. Like again, character expressions allows a lot of different ways to uniquely stumble upon more enriching ways, questionable as I may have stated them, to enjoy the video game process in building fundamentals in that video game, or what is the game sense to this video game, and you get to have a lot of neat encounters that show you different ways of arriving at the same conclusion. So it creates individuality. But it has to be of a hive mind to do execution.
But I guess that's the way they're trying to fix it by kind of just really developing games and kind of getting rid of skill sets because you don't even see too many characters that zone anymore. Like you don't really see too many zoning characters like that anymore. Like I can look at Guile's still the same, but I look at Sagat in 5 and I'm like, he's not even a zoner anymore. I'm like now he's up close in your face type character now. Like they completely changed his entire archetype for Street Fighter 6. And like I said, I guess that's how they're trying to bridge that gap between like professional or more high level players to get to the casuals where everybody kind of plays the same. There's not really any difference in between them. Like you can pretty much there's always going to be weaker and stronger character, but you can pretty much pick any character and they're going to play very similar to this character over here. I guess it's just one of those things. I'm just like this kind of. I don't know. It's kind of probably why I get so bored with Street Fighter at times and kind of just go and do other games. Because once you get to a certain level, even once you get to the master rank levels, it's like it's not even fun to play in master rank as I thought it was going to be.
It didn't feel like it was fun.
It didn't feel like it was fun because I thought once I got there, I was going to actually be playing decent players, like really good players, and it's really just a bunch of people just one and done you. Especially once you get that first level, it's just going to be a bunch of people one and done, and you trying to get MR so they can go up and not wanting to play the sets. Like you don't really start playing people that actually stay the full sets until you might drop down to like 13, almost getting like below a little below 13. That's when you players are actually playing you and not just trying to basically get a quick win and then run with the points. Cause that's one of my pet peeves. I really dislike one and duns.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always hated one and dones because there's just nothing gained from it.
That's the same thing I say. I'm like, you're yeah, you one and done me, you one and done in your way to get higher rank, higher MR, but I'm like, you're not really learning what you need to learn because you're never going to be able to hold that rank because you're just kind of stealing points here and there. And I get it because I've seen people say, well, that's the name of the game. The name of the game is to get points and go up. But I'm like, it's more so you're trying to do that, but you're also trying to develop your skill set. And if all you're doing is just one and done and trying to get higher point rankings, you're not really, you're not really, you're not having to make adjustments to a player you're playing against. You're just like, oh, I ran my flow chart on him, I beat him, so now I'm just gonna leave. And you're not gonna really know how to deal with somebody who's like, oh, I know what kind of flow chart you're doing, and I'm just not gonna let you do it. Then what you're gonna do? You're like you get kind of stuck.
Yeah, because like the game plan, like if you have a game plan that you still need to keep working on, or it only works up to this point, then you still have to keep honing it to make it more versatile because there's going to be somebody else that's going to come along eventually. If it was deciphered this quickly to where you had to quit the game because you can't think of something else, then your game plan still needs more work.
Yeah,
The next
but
person that comes along is going to either crack it at the same rate or just figure you out and download you even faster. So you're going to have your finger on the button then.
yeah, you'd be surprised how many people pull the plug in Master Rank. You would think it wouldn't be that much because you pretty much are at the one of the highest ranks in the game. And to me personally, from my perspective on that whole thing, I like people saying is I feel like Master Rank in Street Fighter is where the game actually starts at. That's where you should know all the mechanics, you should know how the game plays. Now you're actually ready to play Street Fighter 6. But people kind of still approach it the same way they do Platinum and Diamond, where it's either they just want to play for fun and they got there early on. Like it's just one of those things I think they kind of might need to retool the master rank setting and MR in general. Like if you don't play out the set, you shouldn't be able to just leave with all that MR. You should be if you don't complete the set, you don't get it. And I think that would because people say, well, if Capcom was to force a 2 out of 3 format and you had to play that they would stay and play the 2 out of 3. But in my head, I'm thinking you wouldn't stay. You would just go. You would go over to casual and you would be playing over there. You wouldn't play rank. But that's just my thought on it. I guess we can go ahead and get into our final topic of the night, and then we can probably have some casual chat afterwards.
Okay.
Is the FGC doing too much gatekeeping? And the reason I asked that question is because I think that's around the time when the streamer awards came out, and you saw like SK and Lily Pichu and all these like I don't
Yes.
really want to know I don't want to say they're not fighting game community players. How do I want to say this? I think
Uh,
I think they're in the community, but they're extremely new.
to a degree, I feel like that's true. I'm trying to figure this out because the gatekeeping issue is one that's been like a touchy subject for me in terms of like it's something that I had to go through in order to try and get to where I'm at now. I had to face years and years of this, and even where I'm at now, I still got to deal with this in like a lot of my home scenes just because there's a more popular dude doing something like what I'm doing, but you can't support the lesser shit. It's like you got to be the bad guy trying to be the good guy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think on how I can approach this without being as unbiased and unprejudiced as possible.
Cause like I get it from the people when people looking at it and saying, well, these aren't why aren't Punk up there? Why is Brian F not there? Why is this guy not there? It just seems like there's just everybody that's being nominated comes from Sage Slam. And it does kind of look it I'm gonna say something that people are probably not gonna particularly like. And I think the community kind of was on the same page as me. Like the Evo Awards were basically just a bunch of friends getting together, giving each other awards. When I first saw it, I was like, that's all it looked like. It was just,
A Glaze Awards.
yeah. Cause I'm like, how do you have the same people nominated in multiple categories? And it's like the only tournaments that seem to matter seem to be the say what is it, Sage Slam, Rips Arena, like stuff. Like if you're talking about this is supposed to be a community award, then why aren't y'all taking submissions from like the community and giving the community those awards instead of just, oh yeah, we're gonna give it to the more popular FGC fighters? And I'm like, it just didn't sit right with me.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. But when it comes to the that whole situation with Lily Pichu and them, like I think cause she did the thing with Harada. I forgot what tournament it was, and I think
It was an
it
Evo ways back when she fought hard attacking or
yeah she bet
I think it was.
Harada. Yeah, and then SK, I know she's been getting into it, but I can see why people say they shouldn't be there because they're not really just purely fighting game players. They're more variety streamers.
Right. And it just so happens that when they're on this area or this genre, they help bring light and awareness to ABC of whatever it is they're doing. And that's good for traction, but I just think that there should have been something for the variety streamer that could have all these people for variety. That way it's more universally fair and it's not just linked or locked to the fighting game scene.
Yeah.
As opposed to the fighting game scene where there needs to be other people that should be there representing respectfully this space that do this space predominantly. So I'm trying to think on how I want to go about this. So like Lily Pichu expressed that gatekeeping can be discouraging, especially when nominations for the awards were happening and made without genuine consideration for the community. I wholeheartedly agree with that take. Many players believe that the community has become like more welcoming in person, but still suffers from a lot of the online toxicity, which can be seen as gatekeeping. The FGC community is often described as like one of the last truer pillars of gaming, and gatekeeping can create a you don't know the real struggles environment, leading to resentment among those who have dedicated time and effort to the genre over those trying to connect or using events to get in through like a back door or like a skip neutral, just to change the rules to fit your narrative now that you belong or are accepted. Like simple acknowledgement in the fighting game scene I'm not gonna. I'll get back to the awards thing in a second, but simple acknowledgement in the fighting game scene is like a core Achilles heel to the FGC thinking because they don't know how to give credit where it's due without fear of exclusive return on that said phrase or phrasing, or because they aren't because the person that you want to praise or glaze isn't popular enough at that time or ever to capitalize, despite more than enough years to be iconic or influencing to a degree to move a dial on something for that scene. It doesn't have to be for a payoff, but for the community purity to enrichment of the next generation. Like that's what you want, right? You want people there to enrich the right things people need to know about, right? You want people to know that hard work does pay off at places more than being popular enough to cheese that shit, right? This is the course you want, to be honest. Like, people don't want to have hard conversations about their best interests or decisions till it's convenient. They're taking their wants and needs as a generalization, and I hate that shit, to the masses. And instead, it weaponizes good intention to nurture what you care for into toxicity, corrupting what you claim to care for. Like, literally, like, why people are pushed out is because you're not establishing and inviting air for the tourist streamers to be in a constant process of getting the scene advertised amidst whatever they're doing as they invest live in the ripple effect. Instead, the fan base in the peanut gallery is just allowing tourists, that's what I'm calling these streamers, tourist streamers, to take the spot from actual dedicated people that were already here because you suddenly care about the popularity contest for the wrong reasons instead of just spam voting for the people you actually wanted to win from the write-ins and they probably would have won. Like letting the best interest get railroaded by popular tourists over your dedicated anchors because people don't want to do the work. That indecision or a lack of a decision or engagement led us here, and thus we arrive at the gatekeeper's hall down the road from a long self conflict of we need to have this versus actually what you're whispering is I need to have this. You're letting the dog eat dog business mentality of society stomp out your so called friend or most watched supported person for people that don't know you. And you allow yourself to keep playing the victim out of self sabotage. While there are positive changes and positive implications that come out of bringing in tourist streamers in order to help with the lane, yes, it's good. But I see the concerns about gatekeeping persisting, particularly regarding recognition within the scenes, or in these instances, like nominations, and it just stays a revolving door. I don't think people really understand that the genre, like this is the most rewarding of game genres for people's betterment, but it's also among the lesser advertised points to video games because of its appeal. Fighting games don't appeal to a lot of people like that. If people are grassroots, and now I'm going to get to the awards. If people are grassroots, then it doesn't matter who wins the game awards because you're going to have a problem with the game awards show regardless of its system of network. Your focus is on keeping the scenes pure in the sense of not prioritizing money or popularity over the people to set a false expectation of ideal change or consistency. But if people are in the perspective of where you do care about that shit, or you do, or I guess if you have like a capitalistic point of view about the community and how to market shit better in order to make it so that the fighting game community can be more profitable, I don't think that's entirely the correct way to go about the FGC. But if you care about those things for the FGC to grow bigger, to be a bigger base genre for all the IPs, then they care about the steps and meanings of helping genre get more traction, to help the base visual aspect of fighting games, kind of like what the tourists do, so to speak, what they're doing is marketing and advertising. So that way they care about getting the scene bigger in a bigger lens than what they think they do. You care more about the award than you think, thinking like this, which is why more people have this sudden reaction, but hypocritically claim to be grassroots, where you claim about more of the nurturing aspect, which means that you shouldn't give a damn who wins the awards. Like, you have to be willing to lose money or take a hit to create change. And so, like, some people really struggle to not blow that out of proportion or crisscross both investments instead of just picking a struggle to optimize the results or the relationships of the one. Both avenues are correct to help the benefit of what you care for in this scene or in these scenes or in the genre, but you have to focus on the one thing to get it done. You can't play both sides of the fence. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
I'm gonna say very true. Cause honestly, like that whole thing with Lily Pichu and I'm like, that's to me it was fine. Cause I'm like you said, they're bringing people in that normally wouldn't come over to the FGC, and they're actually putting eyes on it. And from both of them, basically say, hey, there's people that started playing Street Fighter or Tekken or whatever just because I played it, and now they're interested in playing it. So it can kind of work. But I'm like, if you guys wanted one of these guys to be in there, I'm kind of like on the same side of the max. Like if y'all wanted these guys to be there, y'all know it was like 70. I think it was like 75% is voting. So if y'all wanted them there, y'all could have voted whoever y'all wanted into there. But y'all seen it, then y'all didn't really care about it until basically they put out the nominees out, and y'all just had a big disagreement about it. And I'm like,
Right.
well, it's a little too late now because like, and I'm like, there's no reason for y'all to go harassing like SK or Lily Pichu or whatever because like they didn't ask to be nominated. They just their viewers went and voted for them. So it's kind of like one of those things where I'm like, well, you can't really be mad at them because their fans went and voted for them. If you wanted Punk or anybody else like that to be in the awards, then y'all should have went to her thing and y'all should have gathered a campaign and just voted them in.
Right. And that goes into my next thing when in looking at the awards is like, how far in advance do the nominations start to accumulate for the final piece? Because people can start however soon that happens or whenever it is that they make the announcements. I don't know where to go or how that happens. That's another thing that I have the issue with because that's more than enough time to add in write-ins or add in other people that aren't mentioned in the outer layer of that popularity contest or people that you just don't circles that needed to be in those circles for that representation. That way, it's not the same people that you see there. Like when they cast commentators for a lot of these events, it's the same fuckers half the time because the advocating for other people to be in those circles for better constructive insight or tech or conversation to that lane in these scenes for commentary, it doesn't always happen, and that's what pisses off a lot of people in those like frosty frosting circles or not Evo but CEO Taku sometimes, or whatever online things that may happen in the online scene via like Pride FGC's commentary or the Vortex Gala or Ultimate Burst. Like if people like those are pinnacles in the online scene that kind of mirror the offline pinnacles in majors. Like if you don't like the commentary or the way that the representation goes for that, for like who they bring in to be the face or be the appeal for ABC, then that's where you advocate for your person to be that person respectfully. You have to create the traction to make the change you would like to see.
Yeah. Because I'll be honest with you, Sherry Jennings might be a nice person. She might be a cool person, but I think she's not really a good commentator. But she's starting to get more and more commentating jobs, and it's just like her commentary just seems to be so off-putting, especially when you have her there with her paired up with like a seasoned commentator. It like she doesn't really like add anything of like value to where my perspective. She doesn't add anything of value because she's just kind of like says like the most random stuff at times, and it's just like,
Oh, I see what she's trying to do then. She's trying to like kind of play off it kind of unfortunately it does kind of show how green she is, but she's trying to play off of the atmosphere in order to build the linking conversation. Like you're trying to be a cooperative gelatin, for lack of a better term, where you're not entirely sure how you can get a feel for how this person is doing commentary just yet because you just started commentating with them, or you just started commentating yourself, so you don't know how to develop that versatile air to really mesh well with different people's casting style.
I in that perspective, I get what they're trying to do with her. They're trying to build her up. That's why she's always paired up with like Yipes or Justin or somebody like who's been doing it for a long time, and they're kind of trying to get her to that point. But I think she might know the game, but she's just not a person that can talk about the game in depth like that.
I agree. I can agree. I think I've seen this person a couple of times, but I can agree. And it pays to put them in the circle with those people early if you're trying to get them to give them the experience. And so she can respectfully develop the identity that goes along with that or develop her craft. But it also has to show while she's going along. Otherwise, she's also kind of, unfortunately, bringing the event down with her greenness. Yes, it is something that is developed over time, and it will develop as she continues to earn her craft. But she also has to keep at it in different circles alongside this, in different commentary gigs. That way, you can further have a more well-rounded sense of how to deal with different personalities.
Yeah, I must say, cause we have a couple of people in our area that do extremely good on commentary, and I'm just like, I don't know if they've ever applied for like the CEOs or the Evos or things like that, but it seems to be like more like a tight knit group of only these are like our approved commentators for these events, and you may one day get in there if we think you're good enough for it. And it's kind of like a friend. I know this person that knows this person.
Yeah, and that would be my follow-up there, even if that may like disingenuously eliminate myself from that argument or from the pool of that consideration. I would like to know what does qualify me for being in there. I wouldn't even take a jab and say, okay, do I got to be a part of your friend circle in order to do that? But I would say, what qualifications do I need to have in order to have a commentary gig there? I already have commentary under my belt, but what standard do ABC or does ABC have for me to commentate here in your eyes
Yeah.
or in your sponsor's eyes?
That'd be the overall thing with the community. It's like with a lot of these major tournaments, like you just don't really know like how they're run because they're not really open with how they run the events, how much money they're spending, how they pick these people to be here. It's just kind of like, this is our decision. Y'all just got to deal with it. Y'all just the customer. Y'all not on this side of the fence. And it just kind of feels like, well, if y'all are telling us the expenses of these tournaments are going up, but y'all can't explain to us where the money is going to. And when we ask y'all about it, y'all say, well, we're broke all the time and we don't have any money. But I'm like, well, y'all won't show us where the money's going and what y'all doing with it. So it's kind of one of those things where we don't even know if are y'all broke or y'all doing well, or is it financially viable for y'all to keep doing these tournaments, or like what's going on?
Yeah.
That's why I don't know. This I feel like it'll solve a lot of problems if the tournaments were a little more open with the finances, and especially when it comes to like player payouts and stuff like that. It's just like, where exactly is all the money going? Because y'all aren't really specifically saying y'all don't have any money or y'all barely broke even, but you're not providing like any financial records for us to see that y'all barely broke even. We just having to take your word for it, and I think that's caused a lot of friction between like the community and these organizers.
And the other thing here is that, let's say the FGC has its own version of a an awards outline, unless that already exists, and that's the point of the Say Jam Slam or other things I'm not aware of. Is like, this is where I fear that the FGC would still keep playing the victim card at times when it doesn't need to be doing it at this point, when you have the power all along to actually give proper credibility for people that have had years of service or dedication and investment or commitment to being here and creating stuff that you've enjoyed over many years playing and investing in the game yourselves, where they're a part of a game's history or they're a part of the scene's history. And I fear that it would just be, I don't think the FGC completely understands that, well, for one, that they have the power to always make the change that they seek, because it's a lot of self community funded events and pushes that always happen. And two, I fear that it would start out as like a boys club of who's who, rather than who you need to know or who needs to be here. You would whoever it is that has the initial control, unless they're told otherwise or shown otherwise, which is made by how you're building the foundation of that event, would just kind of gatekeep people more deserving of these awards or these accredited spotlights more than other people, simply because other people would be more popular or more closely in tune with the person or persons or with the program than said outsider. The FGC can have its own genuine award show, but I just don't think it would start off as being genuine. It could over time, but I don't know how that would fare with everybody.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. That the community itself has the power to change a lot of things, but we're kind of looking to other people to do it for us instead of just doing it ourselves. I don't know. I'm just hoping it'll change in time. That people to kind of start to realize, like, y'all, if you guys want to make a major, like, you could start. Like, we have one that just started up 3 years ago, and it's actually grown to the point where they've had to move it to a bigger hotel than what they was at for the first 2 years. Like, 'cause I think Chris G came to the first one, and he pretty much won everything almost. But then the next year they got, I think, like 3 or 4 international players to come, plus the Atlanta scene. And I'm just wondering what they're gonna do this year, because this was the first time when I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, they're moving it to a bigger hotel, so it must have grown to a point where now they feel confident enough to move it to a bigger hotel. So is that's something I'm gonna just keep my eye on them for a little bit.
Okay.
But that's gonna be pretty much it for all the questions I had for you, sir. I don't know if you had any other questions for me, or topics you want to jump into.
Um, what's going on in the scenes right now? The only other topics I don't know, because Invincible versus that's still a cake waiting to bake right now, while until the beta goes down, and then we get an idea about pros and the cons and all that stuff.
Has the
Um,
Avatar beta came out yet?
Let me look at my bookmarks. That one I still believe is set for December 5th to the 7th.
Yeah, because I'm actually interested in seeing how that one's going to perform.
Now, interesting little tidbit here, that beta for that game is actually coming out in the same time span as the beta for the Tokon.
Yeah,
So I'm
but
thinking
they,
that's a very interesting miscalculation.
yeah, I about to say that seems like bad timing right there.
Yep. So now we gotta choose, chat.
Oh, I already know I'm be playing Tokon. Like I already got my download and everything. But the only thing I'll say about it looks interesting, but the movement of the characters look kind of stiff. But I'm saying, well, this is a beta, so they probably could fix that later on. And just like how I know I watched your video, your podcast on when y'all were talking about it, and just how the mechanics are supposed to work in the game. And just like, well, it's not a 2v2, it's not a 2v, technically not a 2v2, but it kind of is. Or you have a support character. But I just kind of want to see
It's a
like,
one-on-one. Yeah, it's a one-on. Yeah, the Avatar game is like it's a one-on-one game from start to finish with the supporting character aspect that give you access to different abilities. I think depending upon which one. So I think it's trying to take a mechanic or engine shift for creativity note from central fiction.
and I'm
Like you
kind of,
have like style changes in order to accommodate different ways that you want to play.
yeah, and they haven't shown off the full roster yet. I don't think so.
No, they only showed off what they said the beta. There's 4 that are playable, but there's 8 in. Oh, there's 12 in total, and there's 12 in total. They showed off 8 in general throughout the previews, but there's still 4 left that are missing, and that was the other thing on my podcast that I had with my friend was for us to try and fill in the gaps. Hypothetically speaking, what are ideal characters on base roster that could be here that could complement the initial inviting investment for this new scene? And there was a
Yeah,
lot of good theories that we had that work.
yeah. 'Cause of course, I already know 2 of the slots are already going to be the 2 avatars. They're definitely already going to be there.
Yep.
I would say Sokka, Zuko, uh, Ty Lee,
Oh yeah.
uh, what's the name? I forgot.
Iroh.
Azula.
Yeah, Azula.
Uh,
Well, Azula is guaranteed, I believe.
okay. I think Uncle Iroh is gonna make it,
Yeah.
and then it's like Toph, of course. Like I know the main teams from both series are gonna be there. That's what I'm thinking. Except for
Right.
except maybe Sasami. I think that's her name.
Oh,
Okay.
Mako's interest in Korra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if she, I don't think she would be there because she's not really a bender. She could play interesting with the shot glove and stuff, but if they're just gonna do like this is gonna be just straight avatars and stuff, people who can bend. Well, if that case, you wouldn't have soccer in there either.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to think. Like the last 4 slots that they're talking about, it would have to be either some people from Korra's time to balance out the split time outline because everybody there right now is all from Aang's era. There's nobody from Korra's era. Which is why I'm thinking that bad guys or good guys from there you could fill in. You could fill in a Mako or a Bolin or Zahir or Amon maybe.
Mm, yeah. Oh, you sure? I'm about to say you could use the past avatars like Avatar Roku or somebody like that or Kyoshi.
Damn, I didn't even think about that.
That's what I
That
say.
would be
It's
cool too. Those are free. Those are free base templates. You could take those like from subtly from other fighting game interests and pop them in there, and that shit could work.
well, yeah, that's what I say. I'm interested to see how it's gonna play out because I know I already know somebody. She was already like super interested in the game, and I'm like, I'm waiting to see what the beta's gonna look like, how the combat's gonna look, just like how the overall mechanics of the game are gonna be.
Yeah,
Cause that's the one thing I'm like I don't know about. And like I said, the and I know I think the other guy that was on your podcast that he brought the same thing I did with like the stiff movement of the characters. And I'm like, that's definitely something that they're gonna have to work on because that could kill that game with that if the characters are pretty much super clunky when they're moving around and doing combos. And it kind of looked like Aang can. I don't know if they have like hit detection because he's passing through each other. I think one thing I seen they're just like passing through each other and they're not. When he does like his little air ball thing when he rides on the ball, like he's like
Yeah,
passing through Zuko, I think. And I'm like, so you can just switch sides like anytime you want to. Like, is there like a something to keep
like
you
what are
from
the
just
trade-offs with that?
yeah? It's like, is that just for that ability, or is there like no hit detection with the characters and stuff? You can just slide through each other all the time. That's what I'm kind
That's
of
also
interested.
something to know.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of interested to see. Like, that's the overall mechanics of the game. Because Tokon, I already think is pretty much. I think pretty much we already know what Tokon is from the
Yeah, it's
first
gonna be
beta.
another. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play the first beta, but I think the Tokon beta definitely already has a pretty set tone for how it's trying to take the MVC inspiration with more modern day anime fighting games that tried to take from MVC's lead
Yeah, and
and trying to
go
take
ahead.
that back.
Yeah, I'm hoping they kind of fixed a little bit from that first beta because the constant transitioning back and forth, like you knock somebody through a wall and then they could get up combo you and then knock you. You have to keep watching that animation over and over and over again. Like it's kind of like just really annoying having to see that animation so often. And then just the way you break the wall is kind of weird. And
Yeah,
I think the games I already pretty much know the game's gonna sell extremely well. Like especially with people, the fact that you can just get constant mix up on people just with the characters and the way that the tag system kind of works. 'Cause I think they did a good job of basically making it to where if you just want to learn one character, you can play the game as a 1v1 with 3 assists. Like you don't have to learn the other three characters if you don't want to. But you'll get more out of it if you learn two or three of the characters.
okay.
Yeah, because that was the most interesting. Like I said, you could play it like basically learn like two characters and use the other two as assist, and just basically float between those two characters and actually win with like that. Because I think that's what they said. They wanted the people to feel like if they didn't want to have to learn those three characters, they didn't have to. They wanted it to feel like a 1v1 game, even though it's a team game. That's why you only have one health bar, so it doesn't really matter like what character you want to tag in and out. It's just like you could play the game just one v1 1v4 if you want to.
Yeah.
But I think that's about, is that the only ones like the Avatar game, Avatar, Tokon, Invincible, which I didn't get to play the Invincible beta. I only saw people playing it, and I don't know. That right there, I'm kind of like I don't know. It looks a lot like Killer Instinct, except with invincible characters in it.
Um, it looks a lot like which game?
I like it feels the way the combo structure seems to be. It feels a lot like Killer Instinct with invincible characters layered on top.
That wouldn't be so bad at face value. I mean, it is the creators of Killer Instinct that are making this game, so you wanted to try and be as fun and as creative as it looks like it should be for like another superhero game.
I know it does look fun. Just looking at it, I'm not sure how the one button inputs and all that stuff kind of work in that game, but just watching it, it looks like an interesting game. I would watch it. I don't know if I would play it, but I would watch it.
Okay.
Like I'm kind of wishing they do something with Killer Instinct.
Well, Killer Instinct has been out for like a decade at this point. I thought they had a sequel game that came out after that, or is it just been this game that's been out for like the longest portion of
Like
I guess the generation?
they did a it was like Killer Instinct Gold, which is like there. Here's we after like I think the last update for that game. I think it was like 6 or 7 years since they had an update, and they finally came back and gave it a balance patch, and then just upgraded it to KI Gold. And it's like kind of put a fresh coat of paint on the old product.
Mhm.
But it's like I'm like talking about just like a KI2. That's what I'm hoping they would get around to. But it seems like Microsoft is not really too interested in doing anything with Killer Instinct.
Fair enough. In the current climate of the games, I think that's probably, as much as I would like to see another one come out, I think that's probably for the best right now. So that way, you leave it untouched. It's at a good spot for the majority where you can. It has much replayability to it, return value. People that know about it will play it. People that are just finding out about it will definitely delve into it, if not the lore or the gameplay. So
Yeah,
that IP for Killer Instinct has options, and the creators of it definitely have created the options. So now you have either Killer Instinct or Invincible Versus to really pick from and choose which one you want to delve into for a fighting game experience.
yeah. And I know last time you wanted to talk to me about something about biking.
I'm trying to think on what. Because Baiken's design is very, very nice in Strive, but I know that she is also slightly watered down from her original version in from
Exalt.
Exert or Revelator.
Yeah, she is like uh. I
Still a
played
top
a
tier though in her own right, or still close to it. So don't get me wrong. I mean, she's not like she's not washed from her old version. I just noticed that there are details where she is definitely a shadow of her former self, while still a very strong character in the current game.
yeah. Well, she recently became more of a stronger character because they finally decided to buff her after like years of not taking things away from her and kind of just nerfing her kit. And then like, oh, they finally actually gave her some. They gave her like some buffs this time around this last patch. And I'm like, I'm surprised about that because y'all pretty much every patch has been taken away. Oh, she can't Roman cancel off this. She can't instant overhead your Zanshin you anymore. She can't do it in the corner anymore because if you duck it, it just go right over your head and she's vulnerable. It's like, man, y'all either y'all hate this character or y'all kind of trying to keep her. Y'all trying to make her something she's not. But I honestly, I didn't expect Strive. Like me personally, I didn't expect Strive to even get a rank mode after all these years.
That shit really caught me off guard because that's something that I feel like rank is supposed to be like a base thing. Why are we just now putting this in the game? Putting this in the game? And then the other thing was frame data. That that blew my mind. Like I'm glad that they included that later on, but do you realize like how fucked that could have been if they chose the same route like Tekken and we had to buy it to put frame data in the game?
Don't even remind me of that mess with Tekken charge you $2 for frame data. The thing
I'm
that
not letting that go. I'm sorry. I just can't let that go.
the thing that every other fighting game gives you for free.
Tekken was like, yeah, just give us a couple bucks and we got you.
Yeah, right now I think I don't know, Mary Zoe. She looks interesting, but I think when I looked online, which they showed her gameplay breakdown, it's like it's kind of mixed. It's kind of split 50-50 with her. And I could definitely understand why, because that character definitely has a lot of tools for like a lot of casino. And I'm like, okay, are y'all when y'all say y'all gonna drop a patch after the tournament season? So I think this weekend is the last one technically. So are y'all gonna are y'all gonna drop a patch with her, or y'all gonna wait till after the Tekken World Tour to finally drop a patch? Because like right now, this game needs it because it's way too much 50-50 stuff going on in that game. Like
Yeah,
this, I've never played a game that has so much like just random 50-50 mix up casino guessing games in it. I, but I don't know because people keep saying about it's when you look at the numbers of it, it's still doing decent. So it's kind of like I guess people like I guess people like it. I guess it's just a handful of people that don't like it, or the people who say they don't like it are like still playing it, just complaining about it. I'm like, well, if you don't like the game and you hate it that much, then just stop playing it.
that's it. Like, don't force yourself to sit there and drink if you don't like the water, dude.
Yeah, but it seems like God, like I've seen one guy, he complains about it all the time. And I'm like, you got the highest level with every single character in the game. There's no way you're gonna tell me you hate this game.
Damn.
Cause I'm like, there's no way you hate this game. You have God with every single character, and he's a really good player. Like, and now he's trying to go for God 1 with every character, and I'm like, bro, you like deep down, you have to something has to be pushing you to play this game because if I don't like something, I'm not gonna get every character to master rank if I
Correct.
hate a game. But I'm just new. I'm new in the Tekken scene, playing. Pretty much a lot of the guys have been welcoming, like they just welcoming me into the Tekken groups. But I don't want to say too much on Tekken because, like I said, I'm not a super big Tekken player.
Understandable. Me, I only just come from the only Tekkens I played was like a little of Tekken Tag 2 and a lot of Tekken 7. And just them two. I'm still adequately cultured, but still green in the
Yeah,
Tekken pool.
yeah. Because like lately, I've been kind of getting away from Street Fighter more so, and actually, I went back to playing Grand Blue and trying to relearn my character again. And that's like the most complicated thing because she's changed so much. I guess since the launch of the game till now. But I don't know. I just find Grand Blue to be like fun.
Grand Blue, I feel is fun. I can understand how people don't really want to deal with what with 66B or 66A, whatever it is that's like plus 2 or 3 that you can keep throwing out in neutral. And it's like a fair neutral tool that's like safe to use for the most part. I can see why like playing neutral is great in that game until you gotta sit there and deal with that and the finite points of neutral. The resources and whatnot I love about that game. The diversity of the cast is very nice and it's still growing. They're on their they just introduced what the shark waifu recently, so they're on their
Yeah,
second to last character in the ticket. And so I'm curious on how all the rest that's going to go for season 3. I like the gamble that they did too because they put all the cards out on the table for familiar faces with season 1, and I like that. Season 2, outside the first DLC character Sandolphine, they had a whole new ticket of brand new characters never before seen in Grand Blue. I like that gamble a lot.
yeah. Cause I was about to say because I didn't recognize any of the characters that came out. I saw a 2B, like of course because she's that crossover character. But I think all both tickets it was pretty much like new characters. Like they haven't really been. They gave you pretty much all the old characters as the base roster, and then just started pretty much DLC is just all new characters, which I'm fine with that because that actually spices up the game a lot.
Yeah. Well, they're new in terms of them being represented in a video game, but but a lot of them have been in the lore, so it's just their first time actually being in the game.
Yeah, cause I'm
Except
just
for what was it? 2B, because 2B was the like really is like was the really beautiful one that I thought was like a really good surprise to just have her be like she was either number 1 or number 2 for the DLC character, and she was the franchise's first guest character.
yeah, yeah. I just stick with old libel. because she works for me, and I can pretty much pick up and kind of relearn a lot of my stuff again.
Let's see here. Oh, she was number 2. My bad. Okay, yeah. Number 1 was Lucifer, Lucilius. Then 2B. Then Vane, Beatrix. Was it
Where
the
she
big
was,
Amazon goddess, and
yeah,
the mouse wife?
like both of those are pretty. Both of them are pretty
Icolo.
good. Uh, Beatrix is good. I think they had to nerf her a little bit because she was a little strong when she came out, a little overtuned. And
Funny enough, she didn't even get a chance to run her meta. Like other characters that were top tier or in the class of top tier were among also the most picked characters in the game at that time. But she was cheated out of her chance to act. She was cheated out of her opportunity to run the meta fully as a top tier because they had a hot patch just for her right before a major tournament happened that would have solidified that. That way, it would have warranted the patch note for her after it.
mhm. Well, she's still strong now.
Oh,
Like
for
she
sure.
like she's still a solid character. What's the other one?
Female soul bad guy. She would definitely be good by default.
Yeah, and then I tried to learn the demon, the goddess or whatever. She's interesting. Her mechanics are interesting.
I love her mechanics. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember her name. Because I played her a little bit at first too. Because I really liked her playstyle. I didn't like that she felt kind of slow, kind of clunky afterwards. But then the more I played her, the more Versusia. That was it.
Yeah, because she's like an actual traditional zoning character.
Yeah,
Like
she's a spacer zoner.
yeah, because the most thing that took me the most to get used to her is her run.
Yeah, because she gets a lot of reward off of that. So you almost got to like work in. She benefits a lot off of dash canceling or dash blocking or dash macro. So if you know how to like dash in as opposed to run up slowly, she benefits a lot and gains a lot of good frame advantage off of key moves for doing those inputs smoothly.
Yeah, but I'm pretty much stuck with because Vera's been my pretty much my choice since the last one, and I just kind of clicked with her, and I just worked pretty good with her.
That's the Sunda, the chick with the sword, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, that's
Gotcha.
the crazy one.
Yep.
Like she's fun to me. Like that, she makes me enjoy the game at times when I really don't enjoy it. Just getting a chance, just playing her. And that can hit like if you got a character you like playing, even if you're not good at the game, it'll still keep you playing the game just because you like the character.
Okay.
But I said, there's anything else you want to talk about before we cut this one off? Got,
Um.
I know we're gonna do
I
a
think
follow
for
up on something else that you wanted to talk about.
for now, I think that covers everything.
All right, you can go ahead and give your information where people can find you at.
Well, if you guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns for me, or want to just check in to see how I'm doing or what I'm working on next, feel free to follow me on my socials. You can follow me on my Twitter. It'll probably be on, well, all the stuff will probably be in the video still, but you can check out my Twitter at Rodimus51795. Feel free to also follow me on my YouTube channel, or you can also follow me on my Twitch. Help me on my grind in order to get back to seeing if I can put in the running for Twitch partner again, or on my Blue Sky or my Instagram. You stay in the know. You always know where I'm going. I'm always transparent about a lot of things. I usually try to respond within a decent amount of time. Decent amount of time is usually within 48 hours for me. And I try to get to people as I can. And then just thank you for listening to what it is I was able to come on here today and talk about and go in depth for. And just thank you for listening to my opinion.
We definitely appreciate you for coming on. Everybody, y'all have a good night. Y'all take care and be safe. We're out.
Take care, you guys.